Good morning. I'm Steve Levitsky, the director of the David Rockefeller Center for Latin American Studies, otherwise known as DRCLAS. If you've heard the word DRCLAS, it's not some professor of Latin American Studies. It's all of us. I want to offer a big welcome to all of our certificate recipients and our thesis prize winners, and especially the family and friends and loved ones who've joined us today. It's been a pretty good year. Most importantly, we finally brought the World Cup back home where it belongs. Out of respect for my Brazilian friends, I'm going to put this away now. But I want to recognize our former director, Brian Farrell, who's here. Thank you for coming today. Also, Americo Mendoza Mori, who is the faculty director of the Latinx Studies Working Group at EMR here at Harvard. Americo is just saw him. There he is. Thank you for coming, Americo. And I want to especially recognize and express all of our gratitude for the extraordinary work of Rachel Murray Crawford, who has developed our student programs into what they are today, and who is the real mastermind behind today's events. Rachel, thank you. Rachel has a great team working with her at DRCLAS, so a big, big thank you to Rosangeli, to Jill, to Darinel for your great work, and a special shout out to Nithyani, our student programs intern who is graduating tomorrow. You can't leave. So the staff was a little bit worried about my use of foul and inappropriate language in public speaking, because we're being live streamed this time. So we don't know how many abuelitos are out there. We don't know how many rich donors are watching today. And so I was instructed. I was actually given a list. I was given two lists, one in English and one in Spanish, of the words that I'm not allowed to use today. I can't even say carajo. Little background on the certificate in Latin American Studies. The certificate in Latin American Studies is administered by DRCLAS. This program has been in existence, at least formally, since the 1960s, but the first certificate was awarded in 1982. I did not get a certificate in Latin American Studies when I was a student, for a very simple reason. I didn't get into Harvard. In fact, I didn't even get onto the wait list at Harvard, and this was back in the 1980s when it was easy to get into Harvard. On behalf of the university and DRCLAS, I want to congratulate all of our students on completing the pretty rigorous requirements of the certificate. So besides fluency in Spanish or Portuguese, undergraduate students have to complete at least 5 different courses related to Latin American Studies in 3 different departments. You also have to either complete a thesis on Latin America or spend a significant amount of time in the region, and that time cannot be spent in Cancun or Punta Cana or Cartagena. Our graduate students have to be engaged in a PhD program and write a dissertation that focuses on 1 or more countries in Spanish-speaking Latin America or Brazil. So the students that we are celebrating today have dedicated both a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of expertise into Latin America, and we were really proud and honored to celebrate them. One of the things that I love about this program is that our students come from such diverse backgrounds, not only across the United States, but across the region. So they not only come here and learn a lot about Latin America, but they teach all of us a ton about this big region that we call the Americas. You guys, and I say this really seriously, you guys are the very best of Harvard. You are what make this university great. You can find the order of events in the printed schedule. We will first hear from one of our most popular professors in just a second. We'll then introduce our certificate awardees, and then we will award our thesis prizes and fellowships. So to begin, as our keynote speaker, it is a great honor to introduce one of our most popular and effective professors here at Harvard. Maria Luisa Para Velasco is a senior preceptor in the Department of Romance Languages and Literatures here at Harvard. She holds a PhD in Hispanic linguistics from El Colegio de Mexico. 10 years ago, she pioneered a 2-course Spanish track for Latinx students at Harvard. and she currently directs the RLL's initiative on teaching Spanish as heritage language. Dr. Parra has published widely in the United States, in Mexico, in Europe, including her great 2021 book, Enseñanza del Español y Juventud Latina. Dr. Parra's pedagogy is well known for its emphasis on community and youth engagement and for the inclusion of visual arts and creativity. In 2022, last year, she was selected as one of Harvard's favorite professors for that year's graduating class. And in 2023, she received the Harvard Extension School Petra Shattuck Excellence in Teaching Award. It is an honor and a great pleasure to give you Dr. Maria Luisa Parra.
Buenos días, bon dia, good morning. It is wonderful to be here. I want to start by thanking Prof. Steve Levitsky, Rachel Murray, DRCLAS, for giving me the opportunity and honor to celebrate the recipients of the Certificate in Latin American Studies, Thesis Prize, and Fellowships. What a treat to be here today, celebrating all of you and your familias on this important day. Please, let's give you all a heartfelt round of applause. As I was starting to prepare these words, I was trying to remember when was the first time I heard any reference to Latino America. It was way back in my elementary years, way back, in El Canto Panamericano, that was sung during some ceremonies on Mondays at my public elementary school, La Escuela Benito Juárez en la Colonia Roma Sur in Mexico City. It said, "Los pueblos de América unidos, luchando por la libertad, por nadie podrán ser vencidos, su fuerza será la unidad." I always loved that canto. It made me feel proud of being part of this imagined ensemble of pueblos latinoamericanos united, strong, fighting for their freedom. Benedict Anderson proposed that our sense of national identity is built on how we imagine our communities and how we imagine we are part of them. It is a social construction that selects characteristics, symbols, ideals, but like any social construction, such selection includes some and excludes others. As many of us have roots in Latino America y el Caribe, or have deep interest in the region, I find today to be a good occasion to reflect and revisit our connection to those nuestros pueblos y comunidades, but not the imagined ones, the real ones. As U.S. Supreme Court Judge Sonia Sotomayor said, it is important for all of us to appreciate where we come from and how that history shaped us. So let's interrogate where we come from and the contemporary Latin American history shaping us today. In doing so, let's also reflect on the meaning of the certificate you are receiving, or you're earning today for your professional future. Latino America is a vast and diverse region covering 21 countries or territories. As of March of 2020, its population was of 652 million people that belong to a range of races, ethnicities, ages, and socioeconomic status. They speak around 700 indigenous languages, with Quechua being the most spoken, and share Spanish as national or majority language. Aware of such vastness and diversity, the Mexican writer Carlos Fuentes and the Argentinian historian Tulio Galperin stated that there is no one single Latino America. There is no single Mexico, there is no single Brazil. Latin American people has endured a history of colonization, civil wars, dictatorships, genocidio, etnocidio, repression, matanzas, desaparecidos, social struggles, coup d'etat, poverty, natural disasters, and pandemics. Latinoamérica tiene las venas abiertas. Open veins, Eduardo Galeano once said. Today, the pain continues. Think about the aftermath of the devastating COVID pandemic. We all lived the impacts of it. We were concerned about nuestros seres queridos. Disproportionately, a more vulnerable region than the US and Europe, Latin America accounted for almost a third of the world's total deaths, even when it represents less than 10% of global population. It hindered children's and youth's well-being in unimaginable ways, including the loss of caregivers and friends and the interruption of learning for an equivalent of a year and a half of school days. We won't be able to compensate such a loss in social and academic development. It will also bring long-run consequences for human capital formation, employment, low earnings, poverty, inequality, and mental health, and access to medical care and social security. Research shows that even returning to pre-pandemic income levels would be insufficient to reverse the social and economic damage of the crisis. Latin America is also in the middle of intense geopolitical tensions, increasing permeability of national borders, displacements, voluntary and involuntary national, international, and transnational migration that put millions of children, young people, women, and men in situations of extreme vulnerability. Ni qué decir de los global markets, decarbonization, narco wars, technologies, digital platforms, and artificial intelligence, likely to challenge our political processes and even threaten democracies today. Aquí está el experto. Therefore, the fights and challenges for survival, unity, justice, and freedom that nuestros pueblos latinoamericanos face today call not for imagining communities, but for engaging with them and with their new and not so new social and political harsh realities through new perspectives and possibilities of action. In his 1982 Nobel Prize speech, La Soledad de Latinoamérica, Gabriel García Márquez stated, "The interpretation of our reality through patterns, not our own, serves only to make us ever more unknown, ever less free, ever less solitary." Therefore, as we look to engage with the region, I invite you to continue using your Harvard education and certificate to get closer to the complexity and richness of Latin America's diverse communities with frameworks that, as the Ferrari and Professor Mariano Sisking propose, and quote, need to move beyond the scope of the two main perspectives used to understand the many dimensions of Latin American life, nation formation narratives and the different instantiations of modernity. Because, as the authors continue, quote, any category that we suggest or invoke is under constant threat of erasure, end of quote. We know that new perspectives grounded in current realities are already being applied. For instance, to examine and problematize notions such as nationality, race, gender, identity, or even language. Take, for example, the Spanish language, el español. Traditional perspectives that thought of Spanish as a contained linguistic system within borders of each Latin American country to mark national identities are being challenged and replaced by critical and sociolinguistic frameworks that consider Spanish as a repertoire that enriches itself as its speakers migrate and interact with other speakers from different Spanish-speaking countries in other territories, including the US. Here, in the US, Spanishes from all corners of rural and urban Latin America, along with Spanishes from the US, are spoken by more than 40 million Latinas, Latinos, Latines, Latinx. It is projected that by 2060, the US will be the second Spanish-speaking country in the world after Mexico. So when we talk about el español, what are we talking about? Can we define its limits? Can we contain it from the translanguaging creativity of us speakers? How can we bring the new perspectives to benefit the most vulnerable Spanish speakers regarding access, education, assessment, and health? But coming here to the end of my speech, I want to quote again Gabriel García Márquez. he reminds us that in spite of oppression, plundering, and abandonment, Latin America and the Caribbean people respond with life. Life, and I would add creativity. We need to engage with creative forces too. Literatures, film, the arts, music, and the blurring of their boundaries have profoundly contributed to the healing and reinvigorating of the Latin American veins. As we aim to engage with Los Pueblos de América Unidos, let's remember that the resources we have received and work for come with a responsibility to make the best of them. As Harvard-trained scholars, leaders, public servants, economists, social scientists, educators, researchers, and artists, we must care about and engage with nuestra gente. So let's work for and within interdisciplinary, flexible, and creative perspectives and teams. Design research agendas, public policies, and creative projects from a social justice perspective that support and enable the healing, growth, and rebirth de nuestras comunidades left in stark disadvantages. Above all, embrace your Latin American and Latino raíces, identidades, and interests. Connect with Latin American people, your familias and pueblos, in their full richness and complexity. Collaborate with them, learn from them, join them in their efforts and lucha to have their fair and just chance to flourish with dignity y en libertad. Felicidades.
Okay, we will now award our certificates in Latin American Studies, beginning with our undergraduate recipients. So when we call your name, please join me on stage up front here to get your award and, importantly, pose for a photo. Friends and family, feel free to cheer all you want.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Andy Elrick. I'm Executive Director of the Data Rockefeller Center, and I have the distinct honor of reading the names of our certificate earners. Abigail Romero. Arthur Gabriel Moura Vieira. Oh, gotcha. Benjamin Sehan Lee. Brandon Israel Calderón Aceves. Brenda Cecilia Ceja. Gabriela Sedaka Gordon. George Arenas. Josías Salvador. Leslie Arroyo. Marissa Joseph. Nithyani Anandakugan. Raquel Cecilia Rivera. Samantha Mendoza Lagunas. Stephanie Monica Sanjines. Víctor Arturo Rangel. We'll now move on to our graduate certificate earners. Angelica Montserrat Marquez Osuna. Keep going. Jose Ramon Enriquez Gonzalez. No. Maria Antonia Girardello Agatti. One moment, please. Fernando Jesus Soca Norarse. David Bijan Sadijigan. Solcire Susicano Marzano. We'll now move on to our award recipients.
Thank you, Andy. All right, so congratulations to our 2023 undergraduate and graduate certificate winners. We now transition to our thesis prizes. We have 3 distinct prizes, thanks to our donors and thanks to support from DRCLAS. And I want to start off by thanking the members of our selection committee for the thesis prizes. These are Marcia Castro, June Ehrlich, Fran Agopian, and Ted McDonald. I think none of whom are here today, but we really, really appreciate the time and the dedication that all of them put in to the many nominations we received. Reading theses is not easy work. So the first thesis prize is the James R. and Isabel D. Hammond Thesis Prize. The Hammond Prize is awarded to the best Harvard undergraduate thesis related to Spanish-speaking Latin America. That's a pretty broad coverage. That award is made possible by Jim Hammond, and this year we celebrate 30 years of the Hammond Prize. Is that 31 years of the Hammond Prize? Off by a year. COVID got me messed up. A huge shout out and thank you to our friend Jim Hammond, who we admire and appreciate dearly. This year's winner of the James R. and Isabel D. Hammond Thesis Prize is my student, not rigged, Eleanor Fitzgibbons, for an outstanding government thesis entitled Nothing to Fear, Disrobing Veiled Threats to Judicial Independence. This is about AMLO's relations with the Supreme Court in Mexico. So I give this to her, right? Okay. right, they're not all my students. Second prize is the Joan Morton Hutchins Thesis Prize in Latino Studies. The Hutchins Prize is awarded to the best Harvard undergraduate senior thesis on a subject concerning Latinos, either recent immigrants or established communities of Latin American descent in the United States. This award is made possible by Joan Hutchins, who unfortunately could not be here today, but she sends her very, very best to the awardee. Thank you, Joan, for your long-standing commitment to DRCLAS. The 2023 winner of the Thesis Prize in Latino Studies is Anissa Ray Medina for her Religion and History in Lit thesis entitled Anti-Colonial Imaginaries, Statues, Public Memory, and Civil Religion in New Mexico. Anissa, will you join us? All right. Our final thesis prize is the Kenneth Maxwell Thesis Prize in Brazilian Studies. The Maxwell Prize is awarded to the best Harvard undergraduate senior thesis on a subject related to Brazil. That award is made possible by Ken Maxwell, and this year we couldn't decide, so we have two winners of the Maxwell Prize. Winner number one is Arthur Gabriel Maura Vieira for his government department thesis entitled The Political Effects of Income Segregation on Community Organizing, Evidence from Brazilian Cities. Arthur, are you here? And our co-winner of the Maxwell Prize is Estela Lacombe Franca for her economics thesis entitled Reinforcing Poverty, an Economic Analysis of Adolescent Fertility Increases Amidst Total Fertility Decreases in Brazil from 1980 to 2000. Estela, are you here? All right, moving on. So first of all, congratulations to our thesis prize winners. We are incredibly impressed each year, but this year the theses were just a pleasure to read. I now want to announce our DRCLAS Traveling Fellowship Awards. And the first one that I will announce is the Steve Reifenberg Travel Fellowship, which is awarded to a graduating senior who will engage in a transformative international experience in the area of social or environmental development. And this year, we couldn't decide. So we have two winners of the Reifenberg Travel Fellowship. The first is Ilana Ariel Cohen, who studied social studies and philosophy and is going to be traveling to Peru for an experience focusing on environmental and public policy. Ilana, you're here? Will you tell us something about your experience? First of all, congratulations. Why don't you take a picture first and then Ilana's going to tell us a little bit about what she plans to do in Peru.
Well, first, thank you so much to DRCLAS. This is really an incredible privilege and honor. I'm really excited for the upcoming year. I'm going to be working with a civil society organization called the Peruvian Environmental Law Society, or SPDA. And I'm going to be basically researching a law that is very unique. It only exists in Peru, and it protects surf breaks, so places where there are repeated wave formations. It's a very young law. It's the product of grassroots organizing by environmentalists and surfers and local community members in Peru. And I think it could be a really powerful model for protecting parts of nature that are so important to local communities all across Latin America and across the world. So I'm going to be looking into basically how the law is and isn't working in terms of implementation and trying to make policy recommendations. But the gist of it is like trying to understand how legal frameworks can bring together rights of people and rights of nature and actually institutionalize that so that we have really clear precedents for protecting our people and protecting our planet at the same time. And that, yeah, that's the goal of the work I'm going to be doing. So thank you again so much. I'm really excited and honored.
Thank you, Ilana. Our second Reifenberg Fellow is my former student, Sarah Dion. I'm terrible at pronouncing your name. How do you pronounce Diondoren? Okay, Sarah Diondoren, who studied econ and will travel to Chile for an experience focusing on migrant and indigenous peoples' rights. Sarah, come on down. And Sarah, tell us a little bit about your plans.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm so short. Thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I'm truly grateful to Dr. Class for this experience. It will be my first time traveling to Latin America. In Santiago, Chile, where I will be staying, I will be initially working with a local nonprofit that specializes in economic development, rural education, and infrastructure, and it is called Fundación 99. And then I will proceed to work with the International Organization of Migration at the United Nations, where I will do political advocacy work on behalf of migrants, in addition to project management work where I will help with the economic integration of migrants and provide humanitarian assistance. I'm very excited for this experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Our next is our newest prize, the Clemence Ju Pastre Brazil Travel Fellowship. This travel fellowship is intended to enable undergraduates or graduating seniors to pursue a transformational experience in Brazil. The fellowship is inspired by the memory of Clemence Ju Pastre, who is senior preceptor in Romance languages and literature, opened the door for hundreds of Harvard students to study and to experience Brazil. The fellowship can be utilized to support research, to support language study, to support volunteer work, or any other independent projects spanning a wide range of topics. And the award was made possible by former students, friends, and colleagues of Clemence Ju Pastre in her memory. This year's fellowship goes to Ian Espy, who studied integrative biology and is going to be traveling to Brazil for an experience focusing on Brazilian music, acoustic guitar studies, and racial identity. Ian, are you with us? Ian, tell us a little bit about your plans.
First, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to the Center for Latin American Studies for opening so many possibilities to me during my time at Harvard. It's truly been an amazing experience. So for my fellowship, I'll be traveling to the city of Salvador in the state of Bahia in Brazil. Salvador was the historic first capital of Brazil. Bahia can be said to be the place where Brazil, in a modern sense, started upon the arrival of the Portuguese in 1500 with the arrival of the first enslaved people. Not soon afterwards, Bahia quickly became a hub of slavery in Brazil, mainly focusing on sugarcane. But the upside of that is that Brazil, and Salvador specifically, was able to maintain a very, very strong heritage of Afro-Brazilian culture. It persisted through religion, through dance, and through music, which I took a really huge interest in. So for my fellowship, I'm going to be studying acoustic guitar in the Afro-Brazilian style, mainly focusing on samba, and I'm going to use it as a wider study of how Afro-Brazilian culture has managed to persist in the city of Salvador, because I really think music is a great medium for that, because not only is it music itself, it talks about religion, it talks about food, it talks about dance. So really, it kind of encapsulates Afro-Brazilian culture as a whole. So I'm really looking forward to my time in Brazil, and I really want to express my deepest thanks.
Starting to get jealous. All right, we have a final fellowship. Is it a fellowship or is it a job? Is this a job that we're calling a fellowship? Our final fellowship is our Brazil Office Fellowship, which is a professional and cultural exchange experience through a position working at our Brazil office in Dr. Class Brazil office in Sao Paulo. Not to understate this, it's very important, and our fellows have made a huge contribution to our office. So this year's fellowship goes to Gabriela Sadaka Gordon, who studied econ with a secondary in history of science and is going to be traveling to Brazil to work in our Sao Paulo office next year. Gabriela, I know you did. Okay. Before wrapping up, please, all of you join me in congratulating all of our certificate, thesis prize, and fellowship awardees one more time. Felicidades, parabéns. You guys are the best. You guys are the reason why we keep coming to work and doing this job. You guys are the best. I want to take a moment, though, to thank the Dr. Class staff who made all of this possible, not only make possible today's event, but who make possible our student programming all year long. So that includes Rachel, includes Rosa, Jill, Jimena, Darinel, Tiago, and the others who work tirelessly out of our office here in Cambridge. But it also includes our amazing staff in Mexico City, in Sao Paulo, in Santiago, who work so hard to welcome our students to Mexico, to Brazil, to Chile. We've got an incredible team working in our regional offices, in our 3 regional offices. They support our students in dealing with all sorts of things, from lost luggage to food poisoning to much harder things like grappling with racial issues in the communities that they visit. And I know that our staff working abroad are thrilled, just thrilled to see you guys receive these certificates and awards. So a big shout out to them. And finally, a thank you, to the parents, to the relatives, to the loved ones who have supported our extraordinary students in their remarkable journeys. You have raised some amazing young people, and we have been really blessed to be working with them over the last 4 years, and we're sad to see them go. So thanks to you. Good day, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the graduation. Important announcement, there's still food outside, and you're welcome to have it.
Students should come forward for a photo.
And students should, I forgot half from my lines. Students